And a very good morning to you. My name is Francisco Gaffney, and this is my daily streaming about governance, risk, compliance, and advisory boards. Yesterday, I said valuation is a matter of confidence, right? But today, I want to shift slightly the focus, and I want to show you one of the fastest ways to destroy that confidence without even noticing many times, right? So, this is a founder dependency, and not it doesn't have nothing to do with the founder brilliance, nothing to do with the founder energy, have nothing to do with the founder commitment, but it's the dependency on the founder. And this is a model I'm using that you see in the screen here. A board advisor backed, like myself, backed by the international advisory board, is a whole ecosystem capture of the organization, because business is happening right here, right now, and everything at the very same time. But if you have a founder dependency where everything is narrowed, the vision is narrowed into one person, and everybody is depending on this person to do the next move or to report back to know to what to do next, is a big problem. So sometimes you depend, and founder dependency sometimes depends on other factors, like hiring a single executive that actually is our new star in the organization, or you have a big consulting overhead. So actually you are constantly dependent on somebody just to try to understand what to do next. And then you don't have the option to rotate these expertises every 6 months when the next bottleneck changes, right? So then you have all these dependencies, which would be the person, a big consulting firm, is hiring a star hire that actually start to be too big or too big in terms actually what they can deliver, because at the end we have 24/7 days in a week and hours, and people can do as much as they could. Now, today asset lens is the leadership asset, and this is on the top of this ecosystem, our advisory board operating system. And you will say, well, but why you're treating people like assets? And let me quote this from the 1930s from a gentleman called Richard Dupree, which was a Procter and Gamble CEO. And I think that because success leaves clues. And listen what this guy said. And Mr. Dupree said, if you leave us our money, if you leave us our money, our buildings and our brands, but take away our people, the company will fail. But if you take away our money, our buildings, and our brands, but leave us all our people, we can rebuild. And this is from 1930. So I say this is a beautiful phrase to understand why people are so important in the organizations. So the specific asset I want to mention today is the succession depth. So because this is the unpleasant reality, if you may. A founder-dependent business does not own its own momentum. It rents it from one person. That feels efficient early on in the organization when you're building, but it becomes expensive later when you want to have predictability, when you want to go to scale, or when you're building systems. And this is a point. You need to build systems to release that dependency from a single person and to make it more spread around the organization. So the organization start to correct itself as they grow and scale, in particular in these uncertain times where things are, what is going to happen tomorrow? There's a conflict in the Middle East. Is a new tariff going on to certain countries because they are not cooperating with the Middle East. Who would thought about this? Or penalties or restrictions 2 weeks ago? So these complexities are all embedded in the way that we do business today. And you may say, well, it doesn't apply to me because I'm a local organization working with 20, 50 people in our local area. But remember what I said yesterday. The things are cascading from the organizations that have obligations, regulatory requirements, and compliance requirements are cascading all the way through their relationships downstream. meaning all the people that supply them, that they do business with them, that provide services to them, etc., etc. And the classic example is ESG. With ESG, when you have to report your diversity group of your workforce, or when you have to report your salaries, fair salaries, or fair trade, or carbon emissions, or you see how the things are cascading, because the requirement is at the bigger for the bigger organizations, but part of the requirement is actually their supply chain, their services, their third-party suppliers, or the people that are delegating this work in terms of contracts or services, etc., etc. So you still have part of these problems that actually are, or problems, is not your problem particularly, but actually you are pretty much sucked into the bigger organizations' problems or requirements as you go along doing business. So that's what I'm saying. Listen what I'm saying, because I'm using the large PLC's requirements, but this is a footprint. This is a guidance. These are the statistics. So this is the things that you can start to anticipate and also improve your company and say, okay, if I do this, I can do better, and actually will be more aligned, and actually will be more palatable, if you may, more attractive to larger organizations, because they say, oh, you are making my life easier, so I don't have to go through all this process to identify people or convince people or businesses to satisfy our requirements that actually for them is mandatory, for you might be voluntary or not required at all, but if you make their lives easier, it's much easier to gain or make those tender a winner for your books than not. Now, three problems that I would like to consider today is the UK Corporate Governance Code treats composition, succession, and evaluation as a core board matters. And this, we are talking about founders' dependency. So the board or the executive team, or yourself as a person of a high interest in the organization where there's a lot of dependencies on you, these already the governance code is addressing this. And guess what? This is not an HR topic. If succession is weak, the governance is weak, right? It's not an HR, it's not who you're going to hire. It's a succession plan that you have behind it. Problem number two is the Financial Reporting Council. They have a guidance, and they say that board performance reviews should inform succession planning. They should inform succession planning. So you should have that plan already. So identify skills, the gaps, and support new appointments. In other words, a board that cannot see its own dependencies cannot fix it. That is why it's so important an advisory board that looks for the company from the outside in. So these dependency and blind sides that they cannot fix or see by themselves can be addressed in a very fast and mature way. So then you can start to be compliant and be more, you have more breath, you air to breathe and focus your attention on the more important things that which the governance of the company. And problem number three is the Office for National Statistics has shown that management practices influence the adoption of technology and AI in the UK firms. And here's the point. This is statistics, by the way. This is not something that somebody did a study. This is national statistics in the UK. But guess what? I'm 100% sure that many of these statistics already have been run in different countries, in different geographies. So if you are not in the UK, listen to this too. When capabilities is mainly in one founder's head, the business struggles to scale systems, delegation, and repeatability. And if you see our ecosystem model here in the screen, all these things are addressed in the advisory board operating system. So you don't have to think about these things. The advisory board is already have an operating system watching all these things at the same time, so you can focus on the most important things of your business. Now, in other words, what all this means. So imagine the founder-dependent company is a building with one person that holds all the keys. So the lights might stay on until that person is unavailable. So you can open the gates for the suppliers, you can open the gates for your sales team, but you cannot be at the same time in the other side of the building opening the gates or closing the gates so people dance and squat in your yard. Now, silly example, but just to give you an idea. This is the bit perhaps that nobody says plainly enough. The founder dependency is not a personality issue, right? It's an architecture issue. The founder might be exceptional. We are 100% sure about that. That is not the problem. The problem is when sales, capital decisions, customer trust, hiring judgment, and strategic memory all route through the same human being. And people have amazing capacities until the business starts to look larger than the reality is, right? Because the company is not scaling, the founder is overstretching. So these are the people that say, I'm burnt out, I'm tired, I don't have weekends anymore, I'm working 24/7, etc., etc. And guess what? Investors, lenders, and experience boards spot that earlier than management does. And they translate that dependency into fragility, right? So when you go for funding, for example, a round of fund or raising capital or to investors or to stockholders, they already can spot that things before you do. And they say, well, there's a big bottleneck in one person, is fragile. The money that we are willing to invest here is at risk because it's highly dependent in one person or two people. That is not good business. Now, as an advisor, what I would propose to consider is the following. Number one, start by separating contribution from concentration, right? So if you have a lot of concentration in a few people, that is not good. Ask which decisions still collapse under one founder, even after meetings, committees, and dashboards. So the code and the Financial Reporting Council guidance both point towards skills mapping, succession planning, and more rigorous evaluation, right? Because remember, contribution and concentration is two different things. Number two, build management depth before you need it, right? We spoke about this a bit yesterday and last week. So the Office for National Statistics evidence on management practices matters here because stronger management systems improve the condition for technology adoption, delegation, and operational consistency. And in terms of delegation, remember, actually, you have to protect yourself because you don't want that boomerang effect where you make a decision, you set the plan, the meeting is addressed, minutes are approved, and then they come back to you 2 or 3 times saying, oh, we need to clarify something here. That is a boomerang effect. It means that perhaps your team is not in the right place, that don't have the right skills or the right capacity, but an advisory board looking from the outside in can address these points or identify them and put measurement to fix them. And suggestion number 3, report dependency honestly. So the Financial Reporting Council 2024 governance review stressed outcomes-focused reporting and better explanations. And here's a keyword, outcome-focused reporting, right? And better explanations. So if you are doing the minutes of the meeting and say, yeah, we've done the meeting, but it is not outcome focused, business outcome focused, with results specific on timelines, you still have certain dependencies here that actually are not fully addressed. You have to put things actually very, very, very clear in terms of what is the outcomes and the results that you're expecting. So boards do not receive credit for elegant wording. If the underlying concentration risk remains obvious, then you still have a problem. So, as usual, what we do in practice here, what does this look like in practice? It means you stop asking this question, how do we support the founders more? Yeah, so this is a usual question that you hear, oh, how we can support the founder. What about if we ask this question instead? What must become institutionalized, owned? And what I mean with this is, what is the things that the founder is doing today that can be part of the organization rather than the founder dependency? For example, customer relationship, pricing logic, capital planning, risk judgment, key operating routines, board-facing narratives, etc., etc., etc. So that is where I step in as a board advisor, just to identify this particular question. What must become institutionalized, owned? So the organization have the system, the workflows, the KPIs, the dashboard that actually are business outcome driven rather than in the head of somebody that needs to be in every single meeting to make a decision. So, by the way, this is not to dilute the founder, it's to de-risk the business. And the reason why I already mentioned a few, investors know it, institutions know it, so people outside, they know it before even the organization can see it, and this creates fragility. So it's to de-risk the business. And the international advisory board matters because the answer is rarely one hire. Remember, you may need governance depth, commercial pattern recognitions, capital discipline, international operating expertise and experiences, and sector expertise all at once for a defined phase of the business. And remember, this graph shows the ecosystem because the business is happening all these areas at the same time in the same place. So if you want predictability, you need to have certain things to be compliant or addressed, so you have that predictability when you're capital raising. If you want your system actually will support the predictability, and even more, it's going to support your scaling, right? Because uncertainties, not knowing what's going to happen, etc., etc. And this, as a friend of mine said, this leadership fog. I say, what is going to happen now, and where we have to address this ecosystem corrects itself. So it gives you the capacity, the certainty, the predictability, and the options that you're looking for to make the better decision. So what it means that actually is faster, is cheaper, and cleaner than pretending one executive appointment solve structural concentration risks. And we mentioned concentration already, so there you are. Now, what do you gain working with me? Three things: outcomes, differentiators, and risk reductions. In terms of outcomes, you move from dependency to optionality with a clear succession depth, better delegation, and a business that does not stall when one person is absent. That is what mature governance is trying to create all the time. In terms of differentiators, I assembled an international advisory board to identify the exact capability gaps causing founder drag. So the business installs a specialist in depth and faster than waiting for a single executive hire that can cost you month of recruitment and thousands and even hundreds of thousands of pounds many times. And in terms of risk reduction, the Financial Reporting Council and the Office of National Statistics evidence points are very clear and they are going all in the same direction. Better board evaluation, clear succession planning, and stronger management practices improve the quality of decisions and the survive growth. Now, one action you can take home today, and it's doable in 30 minutes or less. Write down the 5 decisions the company still cannot make properly without the founder or the team that is highly depending everybody else. So then assign an owner and a deadline for each to become institutionalized and documented. Institutionalized, I mean, that is part of the organization, is your workflows, is your system, is how you operate. In other words, is standard operation procedures. You can do that for decision-making processes, and you can check, and there are many models to do that. Anyway, so let's pause it here for today and reconvene tomorrow, because yesterday, remember, I mentioned structural invisibility, where you don't see the structure that you have and it's creating these gaps. Today is a founder dependency, and tomorrow I will show you the real weakness in many boards that is not missing control really, but controls nobody can properly evidence. So you might have the control, but where is the proof? Now, if you're a founder leader or an investor-backed executive group and you want help reducing founder dependency through a board advisor that I will be chairing, and an international advisory board I'm going to put together, set up the 30-minute call so I can understand your position and how an independent international advisory board looking from the business outside in can help you and your team without stepping on your toes, without the traditional consulting overhead, and without the public theater. So have a great day, and I'll